Disrespect rarely storms into your life with shouting and open attacks. It doesn't arrive as a fire, but as smoke, barely visible at first, curling around you in ways that seem small, even ignorable. A smirk, a shift in someone's tone, a joke that cuts a little too close to the bone. Many people shrug these things off, laugh along, or tell themselves it isn't worth addressing. But that reaction is the first mistake. The moment you overlook disrespect, you've already begun losing ground. You think you're keeping the peace, but in reality, you're handing power to the person testing you. Niccolo Machiavelli understood something most people never learn. Respect isn't handed out freely, it's imposed and maintained. The weak believe respect is earned through kindness, patience, and fairness. The powerful know better. They see disrespect for what it really is, not a random insult, but a probe, a test of your strength. Each slide is a question. Are you strong enough to set boundaries, or are you easy prey? And every time you let it slide, the answer you give is no. I'm not a threat. I've studied human behavior long enough to tell you this. People who constantly get ignored, used, or trampled don't always lack strength. They lack strategy. They don't realize that life is a battlefield of subtle moves. They mistake tolerance for nobility, thinking turning the other cheek makes them moral. But in truth, unchecked kindness in a competitive world paints a target on your back. It signals to opportunists and predators that you won't resist. And here's the darker truth. In a world where everyone is competing for money, influence, love, and recognition, being perpetually agreeable doesn't make you safe. It makes you expendable. Today, we're going to unravel one of the most overlooked aspects of power: how to deal with disrespect not with emotional outbursts, but with cold, calculated dominance. This isn't about yelling or trying to clap back with witty insults. That's cheap and temporary. Real power is quiet, steady, and impossible to shake. The type of presence that makes people pause before crossing you. I'll walk you through 5 psychological tactics that will permanently change how others interact with you. These are not fluffy self help slogans. These are tools forged from observation, history, and strategy, methods that consistently produce results. By the time you finish reading this, you'll understand why silence can feel more terrifying than anger, why absolute consistency transforms you into someone unshakable, and why the most powerful individuals are those who stand apart, needing nothing from anyone. You'll also learn how to view disrespect differently. Instead of seeing it as a wound, you'll recognize it as intelligence, a revelation of how others truly see you. And with that knowledge, you'll gain leverage. This isn't about becoming cruel or manipulative. It's about walking through life as someone who radiates authority without asking for it. Before we dive in, pause for a moment and ask yourself, how many times have you replayed a disrespectful moment in your head, wishing you had responded differently? How many sleepless nights have you wasted imagining the perfect comeback too late? That cycle ends today. Because once you understand the hidden structure of disrespect, you'll stop reacting like a victim and start moving like a strategist. The secret nature of disrespect. Most people assume disrespect arrives in obvious ways: shouting, name calling, outright rejection. But the truth is far more insidious. Real disrespect is quiet, subtle, and strategic. It doesn't walk up to you with a slap. It snakes its way into your life disguised as jokes, slips, or casual dismissals. It's the coworker who interrupts you every time you speak, then acts like nothing happened. It's the friend who mocks your decisions, then covers it with, relax, I'm just joking. It's the family member who brushes off your achievements as if they don't matter. None of these feel big enough to fight over individually, but collectively, they erode your position. Here's how it usually unfolds. Step 1. They toss out light teasing to test your reaction. Maybe it's about how you dress, how you talk, or the choices you've made. Step 2. If you laugh along, stay silent, or minimize it, they escalate. The jokes get sharper, the interruptions more frequent. Step 3. The disrespect solidifies into a pattern. They know you won't push back, so they stop pretending. You're the safe target. When you allow this to continue, thinking you're being the bigger person. You've already trained them. Yes, trained them to treat you as disposable. You've shown them that dumping negativity on you has no consequences. You've told them that your dignity is negotiable. I've watched entire careers collapse because someone failed to recognize this pattern early. I've seen relationships corrode until one person is little more than a punching bag. Good-hearted people thought kindness would shield them, only to discover that kindness without boundaries is interpreted as weakness. Machiavelli grasped this centuries ago. In his world, weakness meant destruction. He observed that people are always watching, always probing for vulnerabilities. Power is never static. It's tested in every exchange. He warned that failing to act when disrespected isn't maturity, it's complicity. And complicity is an invitation for further abuse. When you allow just one insult to pass without response, you're not keeping peace. You're withdrawing your own boundary lines and shrinking them. That's why some people live entire lives being overlooked, dismissed, and undervalued. Meanwhile, others command natural respect even in silence. The difference is not luck or even personality, it's understanding the psychology of boundaries. Life is a game of power dynamics. Every interaction carries invisible negotiations. Every conversation has an underlying hierarchy. Every relationship has unspoken rules of dominance and submission. Those rules aren't written down, but they are enforced through thousands of micro moments where people either respect your line or step over it. Here's the hard truth. Most people are playing checkers, reacting to whatever lands in front of them. A few, however, are playing chess, anticipating, setting traps, building a reputation that ensures long-term respect. The ones who play chess know that boundaries aren't about emotion. They're about consistent, predictable enforcement. Today, I'll teach you how to start playing chess. Let's begin with the first principle. One, silence as a weapon. Silence is not weakness. Silence, when used correctly, is a weapon sharper than words. But there's a difference between weak silence and strategic silence. Weak silence is avoidance. You say nothing because you're afraid, hurt, or unsure. Strategic silence is deliberate. You withhold words because you're choosing to create pressure. When someone disrespects you and you respond with strategic silence, you disrupt their expectation. They expect laughter, defensiveness, or anger. When none of that arrives, they're forced to sit with their own words. That vacuum of response is deeply uncomfortable. Their brain races. Did I go too far? Why didn't they reply? What are they thinking? That discomfort shifts power back to you. Try this. Imagine you're in a group and someone makes a mocking comment about you. Instead of laughing along or firing back, you pause. You look directly at them, calm and neutral. The room goes quiet. The laughter dies quickly. The joker begins stumbling, maybe even apologizing. Without a word, you flip the script. Silence works because unpredictability breeds fear. People fear what they can't control. If they can't read your reactions, they won't know how far they can push. Machiavelli once said it's safer to be feared than loved, and silence creates exactly that subtle fear. But remember, your silence must come from power. It must feel intentional, not insecure. Don't stay quiet because you're too hurt to reply. Stay quiet because you've already decided their words don't deserve energy. Too ruthless consistency. Boundaries mean nothing if they waver. Most people fail here. They respond to disrespect strongly once, but let it slide the next time. They think one show of strength is enough to establish authority forever. Wrong. Humans are opportunistic by nature. If they see your boundaries crack even once, they'll push again. They'll test, probe, and exploit until they know where the holes are. Inconsistency is an invitation for disrespect. Think of water flowing downhill. It always finds the cracks, always seeps through the smallest weaknesses. People do the same with your boundaries. If you're consistent one day, but lenient the next, they'll push until they find the softer side of you. But when you are relentless in your consistency, when every single time someone tries to cross a line, your reaction is steady, calm, and unwavering, you build an unshakable reputation. People begin to self-censor around you. They think twice before making that joke. They hesitate before testing you. Consistency transforms you into someone predictable, and paradoxically, that predictability inspires caution because everyone knows exactly where the line is and they know you won't compromise. Consistency is not a part time performance, it is the backbone of true authority. Every single moment you bend, hesitate, or make exceptions, you silently communicate that your standards are negotiable. Imagine this: someone approaches you with clear irritation in their voice, demanding your time when you're occupied. Instead of giving it out of guilt or fear of seeming rude, you respond with calm finality. I recognize you're frustrated, but I'm not available right now. That is strength in its simplest form: direct, unapologetic, unwavering. Yet most people sabotage themselves. They sometimes give in, sometimes enforce their limits, sometimes rationalize why they tolerated poor behavior. This inconsistency is fatal. Niccolo Machiavelli once observed that human beings are driven by immediate impulses, and because of that, those who lack firm principles are forever manipulated by deceivers. What does that mean in modern life? It means when people realize that there are no guaranteed consequences for disrespecting you, they'll keep trying again and again until they succeed. They are not stopping because of morality. They stop only when the cost outweighs the benefit. Here is where your discipline must become ruthless. Respect is not won by dramatic speeches or by pleading to be valued. It is cultivated through predictable enforcement of your personal code. When people discover that the smallest flicker of disregard, a smirk, a dismissive sigh, a sarcastic tone, receives the same controlled but firm response every time, they adapt. They learn quickly that crossing your boundaries is never worth the trouble. This may appear harsh to those who are conditioned to tolerate microaggressions, but paradoxically, it creates peace. Why? Because consistency eliminates uncertainty. People no longer wonder if today you'll brush things off or explode tomorrow. They know you never entertain disrespect in any form, under any condition. That stability doesn't just build respect, it builds trust. Others no longer walk on eggshells around you, uncertain of your mood. Instead, they know exactly what the rules are, and they know those rules will never change. That is mercy disguised as firmness. I want you to cement this idea with an affirmation: my standards never bend. This is not just a phrase, it is a philosophy. Begin applying it with one recurring behavior that you have been tolerating. Perhaps it's a colleague who interrupts you, a partner who makes subtle digs, or a friend who constantly arrives late. Choose just one. From this day forward, resolve that your response to that behavior will be unwavering and identical every single time. No matter who the person is, no matter the circumstance, you react in the same controlled manner. Soon, those around you will realize that your boundaries are not temporary lines drawn in sand. They are stone walls, impossible to breach. But consistency alone is not enough. The way you respond when someone violates your standards determines whether you are remembered or forgotten. This is where most people make their biggest mistake. They believe their reaction should match the offense. If someone makes a light jab, they reply with another jab. If someone dismisses them, they counter with an explanation. The problem with equal responses is that they fade quickly from memory. They dissolve into ordinary arguments, the kind people forget within days. Power is not preserved through forgettable exchanges. True power comes from disproportionate consequences, reactions that sting far longer than the original slight. Picture this: someone mocks you publicly. Most people would laugh along or attempt to return the insult. You, however, do neither. Instead, you look at them with complete composure and say evenly, "That wasn't amusing." Then you disengage entirely. You move on with the conversation as if the offender no longer exists in the room. The impact is devastating. They expected banter, validation, or at least defense. Instead, they are left hanging in the vacuum of your withdrawal. That moment etches itself into their mind, replaying long after the event is over. Or consider the chronic latecomer. Instead of nagging, joking, or forgiving endlessly, you simply stop inviting them. When they ask why, you respond with quiet sharpness. You always seem to have other priorities, so I plan without you. That one sentence, delivered calmly, carries far more weight than 100 complaints. The brilliance of disproportionate response lies in its unpredictability. People expect either tolerance or anger. Tolerance marks you as weak, and anger marks you as unstable. But a cold, calculated withdrawal or consequence unsettles them completely. It teaches them that their actions carry real, lasting costs. Machiavelli understood this principle when he said it is safer to be feared than loved, for fear ensures compliance where love may falter. This doesn't mean cruelty for cruelty's sake. It means ensuring that when people remember you, they remember the consequences of their choices, not your words. Now think about how this applies across different scenarios. Someone repeatedly talks over you in group discussions. You don't shout to reclaim space. Instead, you retreat from speaking whenever they're present. Your silence becomes a punishment, polite but icy. They begin to sense the distance. Or someone dismisses your achievements. Rather than pleading for validation, you stop sharing personal matters with them altogether. They lose access to your inner life, not because you lashed out, but because you quietly withdrew what they took for granted. Or take the family member who criticizes endlessly. Instead of debating, you reduce your presence in their world. You don't announce it, you don't fight, you simply fade into unavailability. Each of these actions plants a lasting seed of discomfort that outlives the disrespect itself. But power is not only about action, it is about perception. The aura you project before a single word leaves your mouth sets the tone for how people treat you. This is the dark art of image crafting. Your presence must whisper, "Do not test me." Not through arrogance or loud threats, but through controlled composure, through deliberate self respect, through signals so subtle they shape expectations before conflict ever arises. The way you walk into a room matters. The steadiness of your speech, the lack of rush in your words, the measured control you display under pressure, all of it builds an invisible wall around you. When others witness you shutting down disrespect with precision, they store that memory. They file you under the category of people who must not be crossed. Think about the individuals in your life who naturally command respect. They rarely raise their voices. They rarely beg for recognition. And yet, people treat them with caution. Why? Because they have mastered the art of image. They radiate self-worth. They appear as though their time, attention, and energy are currencies too valuable to be wasted. Machiavelli once said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experience what you truly are." Your appearance, your projected image, must suggest strength, mystery, and restraint. You want others to feel, even subconsciously, that earning your attention is a privilege, not a right. How do you achieve this practically? Selectivity. You become deliberate about who receives your warmth, who gains your time, who earns second chances. You stop chasing attention. If someone ignores your message, you don't send three more. If someone cancels on you, you don't rush to reschedule. You let them feel your absence. You stop explaining your decisions repeatedly. You say it once, firmly, and then you follow through. You do not let disrespect slide under the illusion of keeping the peace. Every tolerance chips away at your crafted image. Every enforcement strengthens it. You maintain steady energy. You are not hyper one day and withdrawn the next. You are consistent, reliable, measured, a fortress others cannot manipulate. This is how you become the person whose very presence shifts the room. And finally, we arrive at the highest tier of strategy, the level where you stop reacting emotionally and begin using disrespect as intelligence. This is where you graduate from defending yourself to mastering others. Every insult, every eye roll, every subtle cut is a revelation. When someone mocks your success, you don't internalize pain, you recognize envy. When someone disrespects you in private but flatters you in public, you see manipulation laid bare. When someone challenges your boundaries, you see their fear of losing control. These are not attacks, they are confessions. People reveal who they are in how they treat you. Most are too blind to notice, too wrapped in emotion to decode it. But when you train yourself to read disrespect as data, you become untouchable. This is the Machiavellian height of awareness. The world is filled with individuals playing shallow games for validation, attention, and dominance. They will test you endlessly if you let them. But you are no longer reacting blindly. You are observing, collecting, strategizing. Disrespect is no longer an injury, it is information. And with that information, you position yourself with precision, knowing exactly who deserves your time, who deserves your distance, and who deserves nothing at all. Let me end with this. Respect is never given freely, and it is never secured by accident. It is built through relentless consistency, reinforced by unforgettable responses, elevated by a carefully crafted image, and perfected through intelligence gathered from every encounter. Those who master these principles don't walk through life demanding respect, they carry it with them. Their presence alone is enough, and those who dare to test them never forget the price. So, let's seal this lesson with one more affirmation. My presence commands respect, my standards never bend, and my responses leave a lasting mark. Live by it, and you will never again wonder why people treat you the way they do. You will know it is because you have taught them, without question, how you demand to be treated. Every time someone grows defensive or lashes out the moment you begin insisting on respect, what they're really showing you is that they were benefiting from your old lack of boundaries. They thrived when you let things slide, when you dismissed your own worth, when you pretended certain slights didn't matter. The anger you see in them isn't about your standards being unfair, it's about their entitlement being threatened. As Niccolo Machiavelli once observed, one must first recognize who truly stands against them before they can ever hope to guard themselves wisely. Many people never reach that level of clarity. They spend years smiling at faces that conceal resentment, clinging to relationships with people who quietly envy or despise them, simply because they never bothered to notice the signals, the quick dismissals, the hidden jabs, the little fractures in how they were treated. Yet these tiny cracks in respect are not meaningless. They are intelligence. Each disrespectful act is data, a glimpse into who someone really is when politeness falls away. This knowledge is worth more than gold because it helps you decide whom you should confide in, who deserves opportunities, and who must be watched carefully because they were never truly on your side. Think of the coworker who repeatedly interrupts you in meetings, yet never dares cut off the boss. That's not random rudeness. That's a calculated display of hierarchy. They see you as lesser, and they intend to reinforce it. Such a person is not a collaborator. They're a saboteur, or consider the so-called friend who always makes mocking remarks about your appearance, your ambitions, or your progress, but conveniently never targets the successful or admired people in their circle. That's envy masquerading as humor, bitterness wrapped in laughter. They're not someone you can celebrate victories with, because every one of your wins is a reminder of their inadequacy. Then there's the family member who criticizes your decisions mercilessly, only to applaud when others make the exact same ones. That's favoritism, and very likely jealousy, cloaked as concern. Their advice is worthless because it was never given in good faith. And what about the person who showers you with respect when you're thriving, but grows cold and dismissive when life challenges you? They never valued you, only the position, the image, the advantages you carry. Such people vanish the moment you fall because their respect was never yours. It was conditional on your status. This shift in how you interpret disrespect changes everything. Instead of drowning in hurt and wondering, how could they treat me like this? You begin thinking strategically. Good. You've revealed yourself before I place my trust in you. Disrespect, then, becomes a filter, a shield, a natural detector of low quality people that spares you from wasting years of energy, loyalty, and opportunity on those who don't deserve it. In a sense, every act of disrespect is like an alarm system that warns you of potential betrayal long before the damage becomes catastrophic. Yet most people ignore these alarms. They choose denial, convincing themselves that maybe it was just a bad day, a slip of the tongue, or a misunderstanding. They excuse the behavior, hoping it was an isolated event, when in reality, it was the truest moment they've seen. This refusal to face reality is precisely why they keep getting blindsided by betrayal, manipulation, and disappointment. The wise do something different. They watch patterns. They notice who consistently treats them worse than they treat others. They see when someone's words and actions don't align. They recognize that the person who disrespects them in small, subtle ways will eventually escalate to larger violations if given the opportunity. Machiavelli was right. Human behavior is far more predictable than people want to admit. Those who bend rules with you will break them against you. Those who take advantage of minor tolerance will seize every chance to exploit you when the stakes are higher. That's why interpreting disrespect as intelligence is a power move. It gives you foresight. It allows you to anticipate future betrayals and protect yourself before they ever unfold. Instead of reacting emotionally, you adapt strategically. You regulate how much access someone gets, how much information you share, how much influence they're permitted to hold over your life, not based on what they say, but on what they've shown you. And here lies the most liberating truth. Once you adopt this perspective, you become emotionally bulletproof. You stop seeing disrespect as a reflection of your value and begin viewing it as a reflection of theirs. Their behavior becomes a mirror that exposes their insecurities, fears, or manipulative tendencies. This mental shift keeps you calm, collected, and sharp, where others would spiral into defensiveness or self doubt. You remain analytical, seeing the situation with clarity. Watch how people treat those they think are powerless: waiters, cleaners, employees, even their own family members. Those moments show their true nature more than anything they say in public. People always reveal who they are when they believe there will be no consequences. Pay attention, and you'll never be surprised again. Here's the affirmation I want you to carry. Disrespect reveals truth. Every interaction, every subtle dismissal, every joke at your expense is a breadcrumb leading to who someone really is. Start observing. Who always talks over you? Who minimizes your achievements? Who changes their tone depending on who's watching? Who seems threatened by your growth? Record these patterns in your mind like a scientist collecting data. Then act accordingly. Those who show you contempt deserve no access to your trust. Those who quietly resent you deserve no access to your energy. Those who respect you consistently, even when it costs them nothing, are the ones who deserve your loyalty. And here's a deeper psychological truth. Most acts of disrespect are not truly about you. They're about the insecurities and fears of the one delivering them. Insecurity often drives people to tear down others, hoping it will elevate themselves. Some use disrespect as a dominance tactic, testing whether you'll accept a lower position. Others wield it as a defense mechanism, trying to stop you from succeeding because your progress highlights their failures. Some have simply been conditioned. Disrespect worked for them before, so they use it everywhere. The irony? Those who disrespect most freely are often the weakest when it's returned to them. They crumble under silence. They squirm when ignored. They fall apart when you treat them with cold calculation instead of explosive reaction. They're used to easy prey. They expect compliance or chaos. When they encounter neither, their strategy collapses. This is why your response must always be controlled and deliberate, not passive, not explosive, but cold, strategic, and consistent. You don't convince them to change. You don't argue your worth. You don't demand better treatment. You simply impose a cost on their behavior and refuse to bend. Over time, your reputation solidifies. People begin to speak of you as someone who won't tolerate disrespect. They learn that engaging with you means clarity, not chaos. They discover that you can't be manipulated with cheap tactics because you've already seen through them. And this reputation becomes self-sustaining. When others hear that you're someone who enforces respect, they approach you differently. They test you less. They treat you better, not because you beg, but because you built conditions where anything else becomes impossible. This doesn't make you cruel, quite the opposite. People prefer interacting with those whose standards are steady and transparent. No one enjoys walking on eggshells around someone unpredictable. By setting firm, consistent boundaries, you actually make relationships smoother, less stressful, and more rewarding. Over time, Low value individuals will vanish from your life because they cannot thrive in an environment where disrespect is never rewarded. Meanwhile, high value people, those who already live by respect and standards, will be drawn closer. Your circle improves, your work environment shifts, and your personal life strengthens. Every boundary enforced becomes a brick in the fortress of your reputation. Every consequence delivered becomes proof that your standards are not negotiable. The truth is simple. When you learn to handle disrespect not with emotion, but with calculation, you ascend to a level most people never reach. You become the person who doesn't need to plead for respect because they command it naturally. You become the person whose presence reminds others of the cost of stepping out of line. You become someone others cannot exploit, manipulate, or diminish, not because you fight endlessly, but because you never need to. You've built an image, a reputation, and a standard that does the work for you.